misplaced without you. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to? Never wanted to end it like we did. I guess shit happens for a reason, but it's like something feels different from back then. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to? Honestly, I'm open wide. I don't feel like waking up without you by my side. I still see your silhouette. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to your bedroom? I had a feeling you'd come back and save me from all my slip-ups and mistakes. And now I'm just pointless without you. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to? Never wanted to end things like we did. I'm sorry for all those promises I made you that I couldn't keep. But it's like something feels different from back then. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to? Honestly, I'm open wide. I don't feel like waking up without you by my side. I still see your silhouette. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to your bedroom? Just take me back to you. Wanna go back to you. Baby, take me back to
Hello.
you.
Hello.
Just wanna go back to you. Baby, take me back to you. Your bedroom. I had a feeling you'd come back and save me from all those lonely nights and heartbreaks. And I feel misplaced without you. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to?
Hello
Never wanted to
and
end it
welcome,
like we
welcome.
did. I guess shit happens for a reason, but it's like something feels different from back then. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to? Honestly, I'm open wide. I don't feel like waking up without you by my side. I still see your silhouette. Why don't we go back to? Why don't we go back to your bedroom?
Oh my god. I'm feeling so sleepy. Ah. Hello, hello. Hi, hi. Hi. Oh, hi, Nath. Hello, welcome, welcome. How's your day? I hope the music isn't too loud. Aina, hello. Hello indeed. Rose, thank you so much for the heart, me. Welcome everyone and have an amazing evening. I'm the dragon guy. Okay. I'm feeling a little bit sleepy. You got sick, Nath? Oh dear, that's not good. That's not good at all. Well, make sure to take better care of yourself and speedy recoveries definitely. Nixo, thank you so much for the finger heart. Yes, Tutu have a blanket. Yeah, so apparently the dragon here has been given a community name of Tutu for Toothless. Yeah, he's cold today. Anyway, I hope all of you are feeling good, and it's a pretty rainy evening where I'm at, so I hope everyone has had their meal and that they are settling in comfy before I start my story. Yes, he indeed. Okay, Juju likes fish, he likes chicken, but the thing that he favors the most is your lunch. So be careful of whatever you eat. Okay, anyway, today I have promised to all long-time supporters that I'll finally continue the story I've normally do every other Thursday. Hi Ray, thank you so much for the follow. So because of that, I am going to actually continue with my story today, because otherwise it's unfortunate that this story will never ever see the end. So let's get started. I'll give it a little bit more time before just kind of let everyone think and sip in, get comfortable. Yeah, alright, sounds good. Alright, so for those of you who don't know, the story that I've always read is, yeah, let the sink in. You see, the sink is actually right outside my house. It's actually in front of the door. Do you want to let the sink in? You can stay for long. I hope you'll have fun streaming. Thank you so much, Nath. All good, all good. You'll be able to, well, if you ever want to listen to it, you'll be able to find it on YouTube. And I have the prior episodes there as well. So, the story is Only a Girl's Love, written by Charles Gavis, I believe. It's a very, very old story and very many chapters indeed. So, what I'll normally do with this story is that I will narrate the story, and if there's dialogue, I sometimes try to do a little bit of voice acting in between. But of course, that kind of depends. If it is for a female role, I will not break character to have some high-pitched voice. So then I'll just read it as best I can, you know, that kind of thing. Hi Roxanne, and I noticed you from yesterday, welcome again. Yeah, so that's what we'll do, and we will be continuing with chapter 16. You'll be able to see the prior chapters on my YouTube channel. If you use fancy words, then I'm out. Well, I guess it depends what you mean by fancy. Like those very over-the-top scientific Englishman words, then no, I'll try to paraphrase that as much as possible for you lot. Ooh, okay, so the freaking long words, yes, I get it. Well, anyhow, that being said, I'm going to do 2 chapters, and if we are feeling like something else tonight and maybe it's putting you comfortable to sleep, then maybe we'll call it a night, but let's see how that goes, okay? Okay, without further ado, I'm just gonna kickstart. So I'm gonna continue with chapter 16. Just before that, if the music's too loud or I'm speaking too fast or loud, then let me know, then I'll just shut the fuck I'll just, like, you know, adjust the volume. So yeah, without further ado, let me start. So chapter 16. Jasper Addleston was in love. It was some time before he would bring himself to admit even to himself, for he won't to pride himself on his superiority to all attacks of the tender passion. Music still needs to be a bit low. Okay, let me adjust that. Thank you. Let me attack the music a little bit. Okay, how about now? Hope it's low. Hello, Snow. Hi, hi. Welcome indeed. Okay, where was I? Often and often he had amused himself and his chosen companions by ridiculing the conditions of those weak mortals who allowed themselves to be carried away by what he termed a weak and contemptible affection for the other gender. Marriage, he used to say, was an entirely matter of business. A man didn't marry until he was obliged, and then only did so to better himself. As to love, that kind of thing, well, it was an exploded idea. Hi Gaida. Hello everyone, just tuned in. Yeah. Let me continue. It was an exploded idea, a myth which had died out at any rate. Too absurd a thing altogether for a man possessed of common sense. For such a man, for instance, as Jasper Addleston, he had seen plenty of pretty women and was received by them with anything but disfavor. He was good looking, almost handsome, and would have been that if he could have got rid of that sharp, cunning glint of his small eyes. And he was clever and accomplished. Okay. The book's name is Only a Girl's Love. Leonzi, thank you so much for the share. You can call me Yoru, Alicia. Bina, thank you so much for the follow. Yeah, just continuing reading the book. This is chapter 16, alright guys? Okay, where was I? He was just a man. It would have been supposed to fall a victim to the tender passion, but he had stuck fast by his principles and gone stealthily along the road to success, with his cold smile ready for everyone in general, and not a warm beam in his heart for anyone in particular. And now, yes, he was in love. In love as deeply, unreasoningly as impulsive as the veriest schoolboy. This was very annoying. It would have been very annoying if the object of his passion had been an heiress or a lady of title, whom he had in his inmost mind determined to marry, if he married at all. Hello, welcome, welcome. For all, he would have preferred to have attained to his ambition without any awkward and inconvenient love-making. But the girl who had inspired him with this sudden and unreasoning passion was, much to his disgust, neither an heiress nor an offshoot of nobility. She was a mere nobody, the niece of an obscure painter. She was not even in society. No, there was no good to be got by marrying her. None whatsoever. She could not help him a single step on his ambitious path through life. On the first evening of his meeting with Stella, when the beauty, and more than her beauty, the nameless charm of her bright, pure freshness overwhelmed and startled him, he took himself to task very seriously. Jasper, he said, you won't go and make a fool of yourself, I hope. She is entirely out of your line. She's only a pretty girl. You've seen a score, 100 as pretty, or prettier. and she's a mere nobody. Oh no, you won't make a fool of yourself now. You'll go back to the town tomorrow morning. But he did not go back to town. Instead, he went to the conservatory at Rectory and made up a bouquet and took it to the cottage, and sank deeper still into the mire of foolishness, as he would have called it. But even then it was not too late. He might have escaped even then, by the dint of calling up his selfish nature and thinking of all his ambitions. But Stella unfortunately rose. What was more powerful in him than his sudden love? His self-conceit. She actually dared to defend Lord Leicester Windward. Thank you, Gaida. That was almost the finishing stroke, unwittingly dealt by Stella, and he went away, inwardly raging with incipient jealousy. But the last straw was yet to come, that should break the back of all his prudent resolves, and that was the meeting with Stella and Lord Leicester in the river woods, and Lord Leicester's attack. That very moment, that moment when he lay on the ground looking up at the dark, handsome, angry and somewhat scornful face of the young peer, Jasper Addlestone registered a vow. He vowed that, come what would, by fair means or foul, he would have Stella. He vowed that he would snatch her from his haughty and fiery young lord, who had dared to hurl him, Jasper, to the dust and insult him. What love he had already possessed for her suddenly sprang up into a fierce flame of jealous passion. As he rode home to the rectory, he repeated that vow several times, and once, without the loss of an hour, began to hunt about for some means to fulfill it. He was no fool, this Jasper Addlestone. For all his conceit, he knew the immense odds against him if Lord Leicester really meant anything by his attention to Stella. He knew what fearful advantages Leicester held. All the court cards were in his hands. He was handsome, renowned, noble, wealthy, a suitor whom the highest in the land would think twice before refusing. Hi, Danny. He almost guessed, too, that Stella already loved Leicester. He had seen her face turn to the young lord, had him heard her voice as she spoke to him. He ground his teeth together with vicious rage as he thought the difference between her way of speaking to him and Leicester. But you shall speak to me. Look at me like that before the game is over, he swore to himself. I can afford to wait for my opportunity. It will come, and I shall know how to use it. Curse him. Yes, curse him indeed. I am determined now, and I will take him from her. It was a bold and audacious resolution, but Jasper was both successful and had made that success by his unaided efforts. Already, young as he was beginning to be talked about. When people were in any great difficulty in his branch of the law, they went to him, sure of finding him cool, ready, capable. His chambers in the inn held a little museum of secrets. Secrets about a person of rank and standing, who was supposed to be quite free from such inconvenient things such as skeletons in cupboards. People came to him when they were in any social fix, and they owed more money than they could pay. When they wanted a divorce, or were anxious to hush up some secret, whose threatened disclosure involves shame and disgrace, and Jasper Addleston was always ready with sound advice, and better still, some subtle scheme or plan. Hello, thank you. Hi Fauzan. Hello Alexandro. Welcome to the stream. Thank you Chacha for the share. Yes, he was a successful man and had failed so seldom. Hello Belinda. Almost never that he could be so confident in this matter too. I have always done well for others, he thought. I've gained some difficult points for other people. Now I will undertake this difficult matter for myself. He went home to the rectory and pondered, recalling all he knew of old Atteridge. It was very little, and the rector could tell him no more than he knew already. James Atteridge lived the life of a recluse, appearing to have no friends or relations save Stella. Nothing was known about his former life. He had come down into the quiet valley some years ago and settled at once in the mode of existence which was palpable to all. Hello, hello, hello. Is he? Wait, was he ever married? Asked Jasper. The rector thought not. I don't know, he said. He certainly hasn't been married down here. I don't think anything is known about him actually. And with this, Jasper had to be content. All the next day, after his meeting with Stella and Leicester, he strolled about the meadows hoping to see her, but failed. He knew he ought to be in London, but he could not tear himself away. His arm felt a little stiff, and though there was nothing else the matter with it, he bound it up and hung it in a sling, explaining to the rector that he had fallen from his horse. Then he heard of the party at the hall. Grinding his teeth with envy and malice, he stole into the lane and watched Stella start. In his eyes, she looked doubly beautiful, since he had sworn to have her. And he wandered about the lane and meadows, thinking of her. Thinking, and then thinking too of Lord Leicester all the evening, waiting for her to return to get one look at her. Fortune favored him with more than a look, for while he was waiting, the boy from the post office came down the lane, and Jasper, with very little difficulty, persuaded him to give up the telegram to his keeping. I'm sorry to say that Jasper was very much tempted to open that telegram, and if he had resisted the temptation, it was not in consequence of any pangs of conscience, but because he thought that it would scarcely be worthwhile. It is only some commission for a picture, he said to himself. People don't communicate secretly by telegram, excepting in cipher. So he delivered it unopened, as we know. But when he heard that sudden exclamation of the old man's, he was heartily sorry he had not opened it. Hi, Bezov. Bezov? Yeah. Hello, everyone. When he parted from Stella at the gate, he walked off down the lane, not only until off sight, and then returned under the shadow of the hedge and then waited. He could see into the studio, see the old man sitting in the chair bowed with sorrow, and then Stella's graceful figure hovering about. Oh, thank you for the bell thumbs up. There was something worth knowing in that telegram, he muttered. I was a fool not to make myself acquainted with it. What will he do now? Hi Fonny, thank you for the likes. He thought the question out, still watching, and the old man's movements seemed plainly little, for Stella had only drawn the curtain a bit too hurriedly and imperfectly, and gave him the answer. He's going up to town, he muttered. He knew there was an early market train and felt sure that the old man was going by it. Hastily glancing at his watch, he set his hat firmly on his head, dipped his arm out of the sling, and ran towards the rectory. Yes, Fanny, that's correct. Thank you so much for the coffee. I'll be sure to drink it later. Thank you, my love. Hastily glancing at his watch, he set his hat firmly on his head. Entering by a side door, he went to his room, took a bag containing some papers, and secured his coat and umbrella, leaving a note on the breakfast table to the effect he was suddenly obliged to go to town, and then made for the station. As he did not wish to be seen, he kept in the shadow and waited, and was rewarded with a few minutes by the appearance of Mr. Atteridge. There was no one on the station beside themselves, and Jasper had no difficulty in keeping out of the old man's way. A sleepy porter sauntered up and down, yawning and swinging his lantern, and Jasper decided that he wouldn't trouble him by taking a ticket. The train came up, Mr. Atteridge got into first-class carriage, and Jasper, waiting until the last moment, sprang into one of the further end of the train. Never mind the ticket, he said to the porter. I'll pay the other end. The train was an express from Windward, and Jasper, who knew how to take care of himself, and then pulled the curtains closed, drew a travelling cap from his bag, and curling himself up to sleep. While the old man a few carriages further off sat with his white head bowed in sorrowful and wakeful meditation. When the train arrived at the terminus, Jasper, awaking from a refreshing sleep, drew aside the curtain and watched Mr. Atteridge get out, and waited until he approached the cab stand. Then following up behind him nearer, and then heard him tell the cabman to drive him to King's Hotel, Covent Garden. Then Jasper called a cab and drove to the square in which his chambers was situated. He dismissed the cab and saw it crawl away out of sight, and climbed up the staircase which served as the approach to many doors which lined the narrow green passages. One of these doors, his name was inscribed in black letters, with his own business room. He entered this, and holding the light on high, allowed its rays to fall upon a man lying curled up on a small bed. He was a very small man, with a thin parchment-lined face, background by closely cropped hair, which is ambiguously described as auburn. This was Jasper's clerk and slave. It was who sat in the outer office and received the visitors, and ushered them into Jasper's presence, or put them off with excuses. He was a singular-looking man, no particular age of individuality. Some of Jasper's friends were often curious as to where Jasper had picked him up, but Jasper always evaded the question or put it by with some jest. What book is it? Oh, let me just copy the name. Anyway, how's everyone doing? Okay. Oh no, I may have misplaced where I was last reading. Give me a second. Alright. Hi Mashi, thank you for the follow. That he was devoted and never tiring servant was palpable to all. In Jasper's presence, he seemed to only live, only to obey his will and anticipate his wishes. Now, at the first touch of Jasper's hand, the man started and sat bolt upright, screening his eyes from the light and staring at Jasper expectantly. "Awake, Scribble?" asked Jasper. "Yes, sir, quite," was the reply, and indeed he looked as if he had been on the alert for hours past. "That's right. I want you here right now. Get up and dress and come into the next room. I'll leave the candle." You needn't, sir," the reply. "I can see." Jasper nodded. "I believe you can, like a cat," he said, and carried the card with him. In a few minutes, door opened and Scribble entered. He looked woefully thin and emaciated, was dressed in old but still respectable suit of black, and might have been taken for an old man but for the sharp alert look in his grey eyes, and sandy hair which showed no signs of the grey. Jasper was sitting before his dressing table, opening his letters, which he had carried in from the other room. "Hey, Ophelia, thank you so much for the follow." "Oh, here you are," he said. "I want you to go out." Scribble nodded. "Do you know King's Hotel, Covent Garden?" asked Jasper. "King's? Yes, sir." "Well, I want you to go down there." He paused, but he might have known the man would not express any surprise. "I want you to go down there and keep a lookout for me. A gentleman has driven there, an old man, rather bent, with long white hair. Understood?" "Yes," was the quiet reply. "He'll probably go out first thing, quite early. I want to know where he goes." "Only the first place he goes to, sir," was the question. Jasper hesitated. "Suppose you will keep an eye on him, generally till, say, 1 o'clock, and come back to me. I want to know his movements. You understand, Scribble?" "I understand, sir," was the answer. "Any name?" Jasper hesitated a moment, and a faint color came into his face. Somehow he was conscious of a strange reluctance to mention the name. Her name, but he overcome it. "Yes." "Etheridge," he said, quietly. "But that doesn't matter. Don't make any inquiries at the hotel or elsewhere, if you can keep it." "Very good, sir," said the man, and noiselessly he turned and left the room. Little did Stella, dreaming in a cottage by the sweet-smelling meadows and murmuring river, think that the first woof of the web which Jasper Addleston was spinning for her was commenced that night in the grim chambers of Lincoln's Inn. As little as Lady Winwood guessed, as she lay awake, vainly striving to find some means of averting the consequences of her son's infatuation for the painter's niece, that a keener and less scrupulous mind had already set to work in the same direction. Okay. Whoops. So sorry guys. So sorry about that. That is chapter 16. How's everyone feeling? Ooh, everyone okay with the read? You enjoying your time? And hello to those who just came in. Welcome, welcome. Hello. Hi Ying. Thank you so much for the follow. Hello Zati. Hi Danny, your roller skates went crazy. Why? Did you put some jet boots or something? Well, I hope your day is going splendid. And to those who just came in, welcome, welcome. Okay. Now I shall proceed with chapter 17. So, what's wrong with Lulu? Oh, he's just cold. He's just being a spoiled little... Sorry, he's just being a little... cat. Maybe feeling a little cold. Don't worry too much. He's okay. Just wants to, you know, be cozy. Okay. Don't worry about it, Danny. Where was I? Chapter 16. Jasper undressed and went to bed, and slept as soundly as men of his peculiar caliber do. While Scribble was standing at the corner of a street in Covent Garden, with his hands in his pocket and his eyes on the entrance of King's Hotel. A little after 9, Jasper awoke, had his bath, dressed, went out, got some breakfast, and sat down to work, and for the time being actually forgot that such an individual as Stella Etheridge existed. There was a secret of his power, that he could concentrate his attention on one subject to the absolute abnegation of all others. Several visitors put in an appearance on business. Jasper opening the door by means of a wire which drew back the handle without moving. At about 12:30, someone knocked. Jasper opened the door, and a tall, fashionable dressed man entered. It was a certain Captain Halliday, who had been one of the guests at Winwood Hall on the first night of our introduction there. Captain Halliday was a man about town, one who had been rich, but who had worked very hard to make himself poor. Hi Miran, thank you so much for the follow, and hi Nuna for the share. He was a well-known man, and a member of a fast club, in which high play formed the chief amusement. Jasper knew him socially, and got up. A thing he did not often do is to shake hands. "How do you do?" he said, motioning him to a chair. "Anything I can do for you?" It was generally understood by Jasper's acquaintances that Jasper's time was money, and they respected the hours devoted by him by business. Captain Halliday smiled. "You always come to the point, Addleston," he replied. "Yes, I want a little advice." Jasper sat down and clasped his hand over his knee. They were very white and carefully kept hands. "Hope I may be able to give it to you. What is it?" "Well, look here," said the captain. "You don't mind my smoking a cigarette, do you? I can always talk better when I'm smoking." "Not at all. I like it." said Jasper. But the lady's client, said the captain, with a little contraction of the eyelid. He was suspiciously near a wink. I don't think they mind, said Jasper. They're generally too occupied with their own business to notice. A light? And he handed the wax tapers which stood on his desk for sealing purposes. The captain lit his cigar slowly. It was evident that the matter upon which he required advice was delicate, and only to be attacked with a much deliberation. Look here, he began. I've come up with rather awkward business. Jasper smiled. It's not infrequent that his clients came to him for money, and not infrequent he managed to find some for them. Of course, always through some friend in the city, who demanded and obtained a tolerable large interest. Hello, Major. Jasper smiled and wondered how the captain wanted, and whether it would be safe to land it. What is it? He said. You know the rookery? Asked the captain. Jasper nodded. I was there the other night. I was there every night, I'm afraid, he added. But I am referring to the night before last. Yes, said Jasper, intending to help him. And luck went against you, and you lost a pile. No, I didn't, said the captain. I won a pile. I congratulate you, said Jasper, with a cool smile. I won a pile, said the captain, from all round, but principally a young fellow, a mere boy, who was there as a visitor, introduced by a young Bellamy. Do you know a Bellamy? Yes, said Jasper. Everyone knows Bellamy well. Well, the young fellow. I was awfully sorry for him, and tried to persuade him to turn it up, but he wouldn't. You know what youngsters are when they are green at this confounded game? Jasper nodded. Again, more rather impatiently. Greville would be back directly, and he was anxious to hear the result of his scrutiny. Luck was with him at first, and he won a good deal. But it turned after a time. I was the better by a cool 150. I stopped at that. It was too much as it was to win from a young boy, and he gave me his IOU. Captain paused and lit another cigarette. Next morning, being rather pressed, did I tell you I went home with Gooch and one of the two others and lost the lot? He broke off, simply. Jasper smiled. No, you did not mention it, but I can quite believe it. Go on. Next morning, being pressed, I wanted to pay my IOUs. I looked him up and collect his. And he put you off, and you want me to help you, said Jasper, smiling behind his white hand. Not exactly. No, I don't. I'd wish you hear me out first, said the captain. The background really took me to the atmosphere of ancient times. That's nice, Micha. I'm glad. I beg your pardon, said Jasper. I thought I should help you, bring you to the point. But there, tell it your way. Hi, Olive. Thanks, Ashikin, for the follow. He didn't refuse. He gave me a bill. Said he was sorry and couldn't manage the cash, but expecting me to call. which you naturally declined to accept from a perfect stranger, said Jasper. Which I did nothing of the sort, said the captain. It was backed by Bellamy, and that was good enough for me. Bellamy's name written across the back, make himself responsible for the money, if the young fellow didn't pay. Hi, Ponyo. I understand what a bill is, said Jasper with a smile. Of course, assented the captain. Bellamy's name, mind, which was good enough for me, and for most people. Well, I meant to get some fellow to discount this, get some money for it, you know. But happening to meet Bellamy at the club, it occurred to me that he might not like the bill hawked about. So I asked if he'd take it up. See? Quite. Whether he'd give you money for it though, the £150 I see. Well, I put it rather delicately. There was a lot of fellows about, and he didn't seem to understand me. What bill do you mean, old man? He said. I took an oath not to fly any more paper a year ago, and I've kept it, by George. Jasper leaned forward. The keen, hard look which comes into the eyes of a hound that suddenly scents game came into his. But this time he did not speak. As was usual with him when interested, he remained silent. Well, I flatter myself if I played a cool hand, said the captain, complacently flicking the ash from his cigarette. I knew the bill was fake. Forgery, said Jasper coldly. The captain nodded gravely. A forgery, but I feel for the young poor beggar and didn't want to be so hard on him. So I pretended to Bellamy that I'd make a mistake and meant somebody else, and explained I've been at the champagne rather freely the other night. You know Bellamy, he was satisfied. Well then I took a cab and drove to 22 Percival Street. He paused abruptly and bit his lip, but Jasper, though he heard the address and had stamped it as it were on his memory, showed no sign of having noticed it, and then examined his nails curiously. I drove to the young fellow's room, and he confessed to it. Poor young beggar. I pitied him, I do, from the bottom of my heart. I did indeed. Wrong, I know. Justice and his example, all that you say. But if you've seen him, with his head buried in his hands, and his whole frame shaking like a leaf, why, you'd have him pitied as well. Very likely, he said. Most likely. I have a particular soft heart for forgers. The captain started slightly. It was a horrible word. I don't believe the young beggar meant it, not in cold blood anyway, but he was so knocked off heap by dropping down upon him, and so afraid of looking like the Welsher that the idea of the bill struck him. And he did it. He swore Bellamy and him are such chums that Bellamy wouldn't have mind. Ah, said Jasper with a smile. The judge and the jury will look at that in a different light. The judge and the jury, of course. But what do you mean by this? Demanded the captain. You don't think I'm going to... What's its name? Prosecute. Then what are you here for? Jasper was going to say, but politely corrected it to, then what can I do for you? Well, here's the strange part of the story. I went home to find the bill and tear it up. Jasper smiled again and again with a delicate sneer. But if you believe me, I couldn't find it. What do you think I'd done with it? Look, I don't know, said Jasper. Lit your cigarette with it, perhaps? Oh, lit your cigar with it. No. In a fit of absence of mind, we'll call it champagne cup, brandy and soda. I'd given it to old Murphy with some bills in payment of a debt. Think of that. That a young poor beggar, almost out of his mind with remorse and terror. The old wretch, Murphy, has got the bill. And if it isn't got from him, he'll have the law of the boy, as sure as fate is fate. Yes, I know Murphy, said Jasper. He'll be so wild, and he'd not rest satisfied until he sent your fast young friend across the hearing pond. But he mustn't! I should never forgive myself. Think of it, Addleston. Quite a young boy with such future. A curly-headed young beggar that ought to be forgiven for a little thing of this sort. A little thing? And Jasper laughed. He also rose and looked as if he had expended as much time as he could afford. Well, he said. Well, now I want you to send for that bill, Addleston, and get it at once. Certainly, said Jasper. I may be permitted to mention that you're doing a rather, well, injudicious thing. You're losing £150 to save your gentleman from, well, departing from that bond to which he will certainly later wend. He will get transported sooner or later. A youngster who begins like this always goes on. Why lose £150? But there, he added, seeing a look of quiet determination on the captain's honest, if simple face. That is of your business. Mine is to give advice, and I've done it. If you'll write a check for the amount, I'll send my clerk over to Murphy's. He's out at present, but he'll be back. Looking at the clock, before you have written the check. And he handed the captain a pen and motioned him politely to the desk. But the captain changed color and laughed with some embarrassment. Look here, he said. Look here, Addleston. It isn't quite convenient to write a check. Confound it. You talk as if I had the old balance and my bankers. I can't do it. I ask you to lend me the money, see? Jasper gave a start of surprise, though he felt none. He knew what had been coming. I'm very sorry, my dear fellow, he said, but I'm afraid I can't do that. I am very short this morning, and I have some heavy matters to meet. I've been buying some shares for a client, and I'm quite cleared out for the present. But, pleaded the captain, earnestly, more earnestly than he had ever pleaded for a loan on his bank account. But think of the youngster, Addleston. Then Jasper smiled. A hard, cold smile. Excuse me, Halliday, he said, thrusting his hand in his pocket, but I have been thinking of him, and I can't see my way to doing this for a young scoundrel. He's no scoundrel, said the captain with a flush. I didn't. Thank you for the likes, and thank you, Sleepy, for the share. A young forger then, if you prefer, my dear fellow, said Jasper with a cold laugh. Who ought to be punished. if anyone deserves punishment. Why, it is compounding a felony, he added virtuously. Oh, come now, said the captain with a troubled smile. That's nonsense. You talking as if the boy has no future. I want the matter hushed up, Addleston. Well, though I don't agree with you, I won't argue the matter, said Jasper. But I can't lend you money to hush it up with, Halliday. If it were for yourself, now. There was something in Jasper's cold face, in his compressed, almost sneering lips, and hard, keen eyes that convinced the captain any further time expended in endeavoring to soften Jasper Addleston's heart would be time wasted. Never mind, he said. I'm sorry to have taken your time. Good morning. But, of course, this is quite confidential, you know. Thank you so much for the follow, Liza. Thank you for the heart, me too. Okay. My dear Halliday, you are in a lawyer's office. Nothing that occurs within these walls gets out, unless the client wishes it. Your little story is as safely locked up in my bosom as if you have never told it. Good morning. The captain put on his hat and turned to go. But at that moment the door opened and Scribble entered. I beg pardon, he said, and drew back, but paused. And instead of going out, walked to Jasper's desk and laid a piece of paper on it. Jasper took it up eagerly. There was one line written on it, and it was this: 22 Percival Street. Jasper did not start. He did not even change color. But his lips tightened, and a gleam of eagerness shot from his eyes. With the paper in his hand, he looked up carelessly. All right, Scribble. Oh, by the way, just run after Captain Halliday and tell him I like another word with him. Scribble disappeared, and in another minute, the captain reappeared. What is it? With his hand on the door. Jasper went and closed the door, and he laughed in his quiet, noiseless way. I'm afraid you'll think of me as a soft kind of lawyer, Halliday, but this story of yours has touched me. Indeed it has. Bye, Yuki, thank you for the share. The captain nodded and dropped into the chair. I thought it had, said simply. Touch anybody within it. Yes. It's very wrong, you know. Altogether out of line, but I suppose you've set your heart on hushing it up, eh? I have, indeed, said the captain eagerly. And if you knew all that, you'd say the same. Haven't you told me all? Said Jasper quietly. I don't mean the boy's name. You can keep that if you like. No, of course. I don't mean to conceal anything. If you'll help me, said the captain ingeniously. Of course, if you had decided not to, I should have kept dark about his name. Of course. Well, perhaps tell me all, hadn't you? I think I had, assented the captain. Well, the youngster's name is Etheridge. Ether, how do you spell it? The captain spelled it. Not a common name, but he's anything but a common boy. He's a handsome youngster, and I guess I can't help pitying him. Well then, it is this way. He seems to be the son of an old man, a painter or writer, who lives far away in the country and who can't bear this boy near him. Why? Because he's like his mother, and she ran away with another man and left a boy behind. I understand. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. Okay, that is the end of chapter 16. Wait, 17. Sorry, my math fails me. Yeah, that would indeed be 17. How's everyone feeling right now? You all good? Thank you everyone who's still staying for and enjoying the story perhaps. Ooh. Well, it seems that Jasper has a law case that links him to Stella Atteridge, and I guess that's how the plot thickens, huh? Okay, that is going to be the 2 chapters I promised for today. How's everyone feeling? Feeling good? Feeling no good? All good? Oh, that was quite a read. Actually, I was having a pretty rough day. I wasn't even sure if I could make it in time for streams today, but thank you all so much for coming in. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that story, for those of you who are still here. And hi Tiha, welcome in. I don't know, that story I actually don't really remember too much, because I think the last time I did all the other chapters were quite some time ago. Okay, Nick, so the title of the story, it's hold on, let me just paste it in chat. Yeah, so I think that was quite some time ago, so for those of you who like to read the story, you can find it. I just dropped the name in the chat. Okay, and you can find my prior storybook readings on YouTube, so be sure to check that out as well. Thank you all so much for the shares. I had a good time reading story. Okay, but as for this weekend, I actually have a game in mind I plan to play. It's a game called Dispatch, which is I think like a decision driven game. So if we have time, maybe we can do that. Yeah. So okay, that's going to be it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and if you guys want to catch up on anything, then find me on YouTube or something. Yeah, I'll see if I have time to come online tomorrow if you guys would like to see catch my streams. Hey Kira, thank you so much for the follow, my love. That was quite the read. Some time ago, I previously used to do horror stories too, so I guess it depends on the day, alright? How's all my pretties doing? Are you guys holding up well? Have you had dinner? Make sure to have your meal. If you haven't ate, make sure to take care of yourself as well. Okay? Okay. Well, that is going to be Yoru signing out. I'm going to take my leave now here, guys. So be sure to take care of yourself and have a good night. And I'll see you guys really, really soon, okay? Bye-bye, and see you next time.